So excited to speak to you today.
You are?
Yeah, I love
That's
the background.
exciting.
I always love doing Zooms because I can really see what people
I
like.
know. I was thinking, I know it's a podcast, but it's so nice that you do it on Zoom because you
Yeah,
get to have that
yeah,
added kind of, oh, we can like comment on what's going on around us and so forth.
it's so nice. So we record in a studio for some episodes, and then with things like this, it's so much easier. We can just jump on Zoom with people and then post them separately. So
Yeah.
yeah, it works really nicely for us.
So good. Um,
Marvelous.
so should we just jump straight in?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we're going to be asking you about Grey Man. So we've watched it and we honestly haven't seen anything like it before. On
Yes.
screen, you can really tell you can really tell the parallels between theatre. It's been described as a bold theatrical experiment, and the leads,
Mhm.
Kate and Kristen, were so good at conveying that emotion and painting the picture without all of the elaborate CGI and loads of different sets. So, how did the concept come about for you, and what was that experience like?
It's a huge question, but I fully intend to answer it in detail. um, well, as you probably know, the piece began its time as a one-woman show. It was commissioned for a tiny festival in Shoreditch as a half-hour piece, part of a kind of big site-specific festival where there are lots of different pieces going on in different rooms and different buildings. So Lulu, the writer, who's brilliant, was given the prompt of tempests. And so she chose to kind of focus in on a tempest between two sisters. And this kind of resulted in the half hour piece that I know as Grey Man on stage.
Mhm.
What we realised while we were doing it, though, was that although it is ostensibly a story about two sisters, one of whom is the younger one talking to us, telling us the story, and she's explaining that her sister, when they were, in fact, let me just before I do this, like, should I not give things away? Is this a
Oh,
spoiler alert zone, or should I talk about the piece as if everyone's seen it?
look, it's so up to you. What do you think? Would you prefer?
I think that in talking about some of the reasons for kind of migrating it across onto screen, I
Mhm.
might kind of inadvertently, perhaps slightly half on purpose, give away something. So I
Okay,
tell you what, I won't give the synopsis away,
okay,
but
okay.
I will say that one of the reasons it found its way onto screen is because we were playing with this idea that if you put this one story into the mouth of two very different actors and place them into very different settings, then of course you're presenting a different story, but the text remains intact. Like you put exactly the same words in each person's mouth,
Yeah,
and the story is completely different. So I got really interested in a kind of sliding doors sort of vibe. I
yeah.
kind of got interested in the parallel versions of the story. So in one version, we see this kind of quite haunted woman who seems to be coming compulsively to keep telling this story, and I won't give any more than that away. And in the other version, we see a much more uplifting, hopeful individual who seems to have kind of gone away and sorted herself out and then come back to help her sister through what we've kind of discovered as a mental health issue. And her kind of leaving of the space at the very end of the screen version is a kind of act of hope, her kind of deciding to change the narrative. Um, I think to answer the part of your question that looks at kind of what was that experience like, it was really exciting, and it actually spans lots of different projects in my career as a director. So, I'm talking about a stage show that started in 2016. And then in 2018 and 2019, I got this amazing award to work with a director called Katie Mitchell, who's astonishing. She's a really, really incredible British director who works a lot on the continent. And she does these extraordinary live video productions where you get to watch not just a piece of cinema, but the process of that piece of cinema being made live on stage in front of you, right down to kind of Foley and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I got interested in whether Grey Man might work as a piece of live cinema, and potentially one that could be like introverse, with you see one actor's version and then you go to the other side of the set and see the other version, and the two are intercut to create a new kind of what's the word, like a new version that audiences can witness at home.
Yeah.
However, then, as we all know, a pandemic happened.
Oh
And it
no.
interrupted our kind of plans for Grey Man. But it was cool because I think there's a sort of convergence between stage and screen, and I would argue kind of immersive technology as well. So it kind of provided an opportunity to do a bit of an experiment and try to get theatre and screen professionals together in a room to make something that deliberately wasn't trying to be either one of those things, but was trying to be a kind of digital hybrid in the middle.
Yeah, that's really nice. I find it so interesting because you see a script and it's a screenplay, but you also see theatre and it's like a completely different thing. But it's like, I love the fact it can be sort of merged together. So you were mainly involved in the screen one, right? So the story was there and then you became in directing the screen, which is interesting. What was your directing route in? Because obviously this isn't the first thing you've done, I presume. What else have you done? How did you get?
No, it's not. And I'm delighted to say I did also direct the stage version. So my relationship to this play has managed to span the whole process, which is what has made it so exciting to kind of work on it in different ways.
Yeah.
But you are correct. I did not begin with Grey Man. In fact, Grey Man came to me as I was working as an assistant director at the RSC, the Royal Shakespeare Company. And it was cool, actually, like, because obviously the direct address side of it is not dissimilar to something like Fleabag. And it's not dissimilar to a lot of the kind of work that goes on at the RSC. You have kind of the Shakespearean aside. And I was working on this really cool piece called Hecuba, which was like a radical adaptation of the story of Hecuba or the Trojan women. And it was full of these really like formally innovative moments where a character would be narrating the story to you whilst also kind of giving you their line, and they might steal a line from somebody else, and it was raising brilliant questions about where the truth lies, like whose story is it, which is was a great thing to kind of prepare me for Grey Man, because I think it taught me a lot about this concept of direct address and how to handle it on stage, and I guess ultimately now on screen. But yeah, before that, I directed a piece for the Arcola, which is a theatre in Hackney. And that was also a kind of experiment. So 50% of the piece was about, it had two blind characters in it. And I thought, why not just break the boundaries a bit more? Let's experiment with the idea of having one of the characters only exist as sound. So the audience all had kind of over-ear headsets, and the whole thing was experienced in total darkness. There was one live actor in the room, so it was partially live, but the rest of it was recorded in this really creepy, it's actually been knocked down now, but like abandoned chapel in Warwickshire. And yeah, so I've long experimented with different ways of kind of reaching audiences.
So with Grey Man, obviously you're working collaboratively with other people. There were over 30 people you're working with. When it's something immersive, something experiential, where it's not the traditional, you know, you have a script, you direct it, and, you know, it's like everything else. How does that differ? And what has it been like for you working with other people, trying to explain your ideas and, you know, say like, this is what I think we should do? And if, I don't know if you've faced any cases where people don't necessarily agree, or, you know, how have you found working in a team doing different things?
Yeah. It's a really good question. Because you're right, this is a larger group than one might expect to work with on a one-person show. It's a similar size to the kind of number of people I might collaborate with on a larger scale production. Like there was a piece that I did in 2018 that was like, I'm not actually joking, so 60 scenes, 110 characters. I know, it's bonkers. And the stage space was, I've never worked on such a big space, so that was like a huge experience. So I guess there are similarities in terms of the scale of the collaboration with a piece like that was called Love and Information, which is an amazing play by Carol Churchill. It's beautiful. So I think I recognized elements of that larger scale process, but what was totally different, and this is where the kind of the interesting differences come in between screen and stage. Like in theatre, like we all come into the auditorium together for technical rehearsals, and together we discover what it is we're going to do together. And we might have come with some ideas, like the composer might have brought some stuff they've already done, and the sound person might have like a sense of where they might place the speakers. But ultimately, because everybody's in the room together, and because they've been into rehearsals, like dropping in all the way through to see what is going to happen, people's ideas have evolved collaboratively throughout the process in real time together.
Nice.
I guess the clue is in like the form. Like for theatre, we all come together to watch it, whereas screen can be experienced in a much more like disjointed way. Like
Yeah.
you can go in your own space to experience it. And I think weirdly, what I found about the process is the same. That if you have a conversation with one of your creatives, like you're completely focused on sound because it's slightly segmented, the process. Like you deal with sound, you deal with music. You can even break down each of those things into like minute different departments that are like one person's like entire job. So I've found that like really different and quite helpful. Like it's instructive, helping me understand like the different delineations when you get into screen. But it was a challenge because yeah, I suppose I'm used to like seeing it for real and hearing it for real during a rehearsal process up to the actual thing.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going to ask about the difference between stage and screen, but I guess you've kind of answered that already. Do you have sort of like a preference? Which one did you find more challenging, or which one did you prefer? Was it equal? Did you love it?
Yeah, I mean, I love different things about it. I think what's slightly amazing about Grey Man is that technically that is my first piece of directing anything for screen. And I'm delighted that it's kind of not a short film. So it's not my debut short film. It's like a piece of digital theatre. But what I've totally lost what I was going to say then. Why was I saying that? What was your question?
Preferring stage or screen, or differences, challenges.
Yeah. So I don't think like I have like a preference, but I think that what was useful about Grey Man being done as, I don't think it feels like your standard first attempt at screen. Like it's not a kind of shoestring short film. It's something where we really tried to resource it and make sure that the process was held by like the right funding and all the rest of it. And so the value of that is you wouldn't normally expect to learn about special effects on a show like this. And actually both of you have talked about like, oh, it's so nice to see something without all of that. There is a special effect in Grey Man. And for me, it's been amazing that actually I've managed to kind of equip myself with experience of almost every part of a standard film or high-end TV process, simply by doing something that ultimately it's a monologue intercut, like it's two talking heads, right? But the way that we went about it means that everybody on the process learned so much more than we might have if we'd kind of done that horrendous, like, you know, the begging thing. I mean, not that we weren't begging all the time for extras, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what was that overall process like, and how long did it take to make Grey Man?
Gosh. So it's a bizarre question, and I will share with you, like, it was a really challenging process because, and I'm learning this, you know, the clue is in the name of the company, that we exist in the spaces between things. We are liminal. And I think because this qualified as neither stage nor screen in the traditional sense, it was almost impossible to work out who to get to fund it because we weren't eligible for some things, we weren't eligible for other things that might have normally covered you. So there was a lot of kind of articulating what we were trying to do in order to benefit the people who make stage work and the people who make screen work. So, I mean, it's hard to quantify how long this process took, but the idea was had as early as kind of, I guess, the summer of 2020. And like, and I suppose, you know, the idea of doing Grey Man in some sort of screen form existed before because of the live video idea. But, you know, during the pandemic, it became really quickly clear that Grey Man had this quite spooky, like resonance with the pandemic, because I don't know if you agree, but the grey breath stuff and like the fingers going grey and then your insides, and I was like, oh my god, it's COVID. It's like, it's really topical, and I was like, gosh, we've got to do it. But it proved incredibly challenging to get that funding, and I still stand by the decision to not do it on the cheap. Like, I think we did the right thing to keep plugging and keep trying to make sure that we had the funding to pay people properly and do it kind of right. But it meant that it did really take that long. We shot it in June of this year.
Wow.
Because I know, and we actually were going to do it in March, and then I'm not going to go into all of the convoluted reasons, but a combination of like funding challenges through no fault of the funder, but it had a huge impact on us. So funding challenges, and then COVID. We lost our lead actor, and we then, I mean, it's great because we ended up with Kate O'Flynn. So it's fantastic. But it was a real, I wanted to, in a way, reward the actors who had helped to build the thing. So it was really sad we lost the actor that we thought was going to be in the role. And it obviously meant that we then had to kind of pivot a bit and make space for Kate to come on board the project. So it was a long process, and it was not without heartache.
Gosh, so what would you hope that audiences can take away from watching? Because it's interesting you brought up COVID as a parallel. I think there are other different themes that could be brought out as well, but what do you hope that...
I'm going to do a really cheeky thing and be like, well, what are the themes that most interested you? What piqued your interest?
Well, I just really liked the idea that how the characters were very paralleling each other. And we have a segment in our podcast where we talk about our favorite tropes, and that whole parallel.
I have such a funny story for you. Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
This is getting a bit silly, but it's okay, I think. So last night I was like, I should probs listen to this podcast. So I listened to quite a few. And so this really hilarious thing happened. One is that I listened to the fact that neither of you are particularly fans of like the ambiguity. And I was like, oh, hilarious, because one of the things that Grey Man is definitely trying to do is like hold the door open to audiences like finding their own meaning. And I was like, that is hilarious. But it's funnier than that. Wait. So when I happened to be listening to this podcast, I was getting ready for bed because I'd left it that late before I thought I was going to do this clearly useful homework, basically. Anyway, so there I was. And it got to the moment where I was brushing my teeth. So I was in the bathroom, and you then went into that, I don't know if you remember the segment in question, but you said, oh my God, in horror, that trope where someone's in the bathroom
behind
and
you.
I was like, oh my God. And it was quite dark. I hadn't bothered to turn the light on. I was just about to go to bed. And I was like, oh my God, it's too freaky. I have to turn the light on.
It was all just creeping in like, remember us? We have little
so funny. I was like, thank God I don't have one of those medicine cabinets. I do have a mirror, but at least I didn't have a cabinet.
They always have those in horror films, and then they shut it. It's like it's behind. Come on.
I know, it made me laugh so hard. Anyway, sorry, I'm back in the room now. Let's return to your question, but I couldn't resist telling you that.
No, I think the point you were making about the ambiguity, you did it so well in this, because I think it is important to let audiences come to their own conclusion. As much as it is nice to just be given like, oh, here, this is how it ends, this is what you are being told to believe, it is nice to just be left with some room for interpretation. So
yeah, because I do know the segment we're talking about, and I remember saying in it, I was like, yeah, but Shutter Island like did it so well, so I am not opposed.
You did say that.
It's like partial closure, and then I like going off and thinking, but I think the film we were talking about was something that I was just like, I didn't sit through 4 of these.
It just made me laugh. And also it was definitely an excuse to tell you the story about the bathroom mirror, because it was just really fun.
Well, then on that note, what are your favourite tropes in movies? Because we like,
oh my goodness,
like, do you have any that stick out?
Well, so I was having a bit of a think about whether there's anything like that I could share. I don't know about tropes, but what I will say is I was thinking like, gosh, what are my favourite kind of films, what are my favorite TV programs? And I noticed that with film, it is to do with the kind of explosion of what the audience thinks is happening. So like when I look at, I find it quite hard to choose my favorites, because they kind of evolve and move. And if I took on a desert island all my discs, I'd kind of want to go to a new one within about a week. But like Memento, that's a great example, because it's formally like it's doing something unusual with the way that narrative is being told to us. And Fight Club, the reveal is like a
story, right? The backward story, like
it's the backward story. Okay, nice. And like Fight Club with the revelation, comes, like, and so I think there's something for me about shows that suddenly reveal what's hidden under the facade, which makes total sense because liminal is all about like exposing process. So if I could have got more funding to Grey Man, what would have been amazing would be to have like a behind the scenes unit who were doing a really detailed behind the scenes of a stage screen production. And maybe the next thing that we do can have that, and maybe we can do it in like 360, so it's a bit more exciting than just any old standard behind the scenes. But like, and the Truman Show, just thinking of other,
what,
pulling the curtain aside.
I always say this to Tati, like, my favorite genre of film involves a plot twist, but I don't like going in knowing there's a plot twist, because I expect there to be a plot twist.
Yes, exactly. You've got to not know anything about it.
Exactly. I need to have not watched the trailer. No, I don't want you to say, oh, have you seen, like, there's a good twist, because I will be looking for it. So you're so right in that Memento and Shutter Island, very similar sort of situations. And when I watched Shutter Island, I watched it before I watched Memento. So I have, like, out of the two now, Shutter Island's my favorite, but I know that if I watched them in the other order, it would be Memento that was my favorite.
Yeah.
I do really agree that I like going in and something's like revealed, but I don't want to know going in that there's going to be a reveal. I really get you.
I definitely think people will enjoy Grey Man so much if they haven't seen it already. What do you? I completely lost my train of thought. I was going to ask.
I don't know, but we can all just like reflect on that excellent thought that you've just expressed.
Sentence coming, and then there was
something. I was going to say, what is next for you? Because you said that this isn't your on-screen debut. So is there anything you can share with us about your on-screen debut, if it's coming soon?
That's a really good question. I can share bits and bobs, so there were some people who I would have loved to have had involved with Grey Man, but obviously availabilities being what they are, not everybody that I wanted to work with was able to be on that particular show. So there is a short film that is in the pipeline, currently looking for funding, so early in the pipeline. But it's really cool. It could almost be a music video. It's not going to be, but it could be a music video because the strength of the story, I think it's so strong that you could just do it visually without dialogue. And that would be interesting after Grey Man, because obviously Grey Man is like all about the dialogue / monologue. What can I tell you about it without giving it away? It involves like, it's sort of sci-fi, it's very gay. It's like super gay. And I think I can, without giving away too much, and letting you know that I love a pun, just so everyone knows, it's called The Present. And I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to share that I do love a pun.
That could be connoted from that. Is that a word? Connoted? Like, there's lots of, that's got so many meanings. So
it does have so many meanings. So yeah, it's really cool. And I really hope that we'll be able to, there's a bridge I want to shoot it on. So fingers crossed that we get that location.
Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope.
But yeah, so that is the next kind of short film thing that I will be making. And then there is something massive planned for, I mean, I hope to see it come to fruition in 2023, but I've learned that you can't assume that what you want will necessarily be the case in the timescales that you want. But it is really cool. It's, I think I can say it's called Flex. There's a little bit on the website about it. It's a big XR production. So imagine, I've just described the Katie Mitchell style of work, the kind of live video making. And I've also mentioned that I did a binaural show. Imagine like a live video show that's happening on stage, but in a games engine and has kind of live motion capture and stuff like that. It's really cool.
That's so
happy to do a little a chat about it when it's a bit more fun.
Please. No, we love doing this stuff anyway, because we also just get to go and experience so many things, and it's just like, I just love it so much. And I wish I'd been able to see the binaural thing, because I love ASMR and like anything like that, and I really think that is like so up my street. Anything like 4D immersive. So I'm excited to see this come to life.
Well, I'll put you on the invitation list. Sorted.
Is there anywhere online? And obviously you've got the website that everyone can watch. Obviously Grey Man's on YouTube as well, right? So
Grey Man is on YouTube, or you can just go to the liminalstage.com/Grey Man webpage.
We'll put it there.
You can probably get to it from my website as well, the robynwinfieldsmith.com.
Nice.
but I can't remember if there's a link. There should be, if there is.
Probably a link. We'll put it all on the screen so everyone can
Amazing.
find it. But yeah, thanks so much for talking to us. I'm excited for
Oh, thanks for being good fun.
events.
Of course.
And thanks for listening to the podcast.
My pleasure. It was good fun listening to it. I'm going to be
Amazing.
listening to an episode a week now because there are clearly many that I've got to catch up on. I look at you both getting overwhelmed.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you enjoy yours.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. If you enjoyed, definitely make sure to check out the other interviews we have on this channel.
And make sure you check out our podcast as seen in on our other channel. Everything will be linked in the description below.